Hi everybody, Gretchen at the Killingly Public Library bringing you more fun with plants. Today we'll make a terrarium, but I thought we'd first look at last week's project and see how that's going. So, last week we were growing scallions. They're doing very well. It's now a lot of green. You could plant these now if you felt like it. And we were growing celery. That's got a nice piece growing out of the center, so I think that one's going to work out pretty well too. And then the scallions that we planted last week are growing nicely. Another success story. But I'm not too happy with the celery. It's got too wet, so we're going to abandon this project and we'll work on the new celery some other time, making sure that we don't water it too much. Today we're going to make a terrarium. We have all the ingredients here. We're going to make our own little ecosystem. We'll need a glass container. You can use a pickle jar, you can use an old aquarium, you can use a brandy snifter, anything as long as it's clear glass, with or without a lid. We'll need some gravel, which will go in the bottom. We'll need some soil on top of the gravel, and the plants will go into the soil, and then maybe a few decorative objects. So I'm going to start putting the gravel in. We need the gravel because it'll provide drainage for your ecosystem. The excess water will drain into the gravel so it doesn't soak into your plants too much, and it'll also provide a reservoir to keep things nice and moist. This is aquarium gravel, but you can just use any type of pebbles or glass beads, whatever you feel like. I'm going to put in maybe an inch or so. That looks good. Next comes the soil. Just regular potting soil will be good enough for this. Maybe 2 or 3 inches. You got to keep in mind when you're making a terrarium that a lot of the space in here is going to be taken up with your planting medium. So you can't put a very tall plant in. And also keep in mind that if you're making a big terrarium, it's going to be really heavy when you're done. So make sure you have a space for it before you begin. Alright, that should work. Now we've got to put the plants in there. The type of plant you want to use in a terrarium doesn't need much sun and it likes moisture. So don't use like a flowering plant that needs to be in the windowsill all the time. This is an arrowhead plant. This is a good terrarium choice. This is a little begonia. That should work too. And this is for the low growing bottom part, miniature fig plant, creeping fig. I'm going to start by putting in the arrowhead first. So make a nice little spot for it. Take it out of its pot. I'm going to trim it up a little bit. We don't need this big part. We don't need this little part. I'm going to cut off some of the roots. And tuck it right in there. Next, I'm going to put the begonia in. If I can get it out of the pot. There it is. Not much of a root system on this little guy. I'm just pressing down lightly so it will be stable in there. Now for the creeping fig. I don't think I want to put this whole thing in there. Cut it in half. That looks good. I'm going to put the fig near the front because it's a low plant. And the fig will spread around and cover up the soil so it looks nicer. The begonia will spread out a little bit. You might have to trim this every once in a while. You could also put in some nifty little decor. I think the stick is enough. We won't use the rocks today. Then we'll water it. I'm going to kind of water around the edges to make sure that I wash down any of the soil that got splattered onto the glass. Put in a good amount. You don't have to soak it. Most of it's going to go down into the gravel. Put on the lid, and you're done. If you don't have a lid, you'll have to water your terrarium every once in a while. But with the lid, it'll take care of itself. Keep it in a nice bright place, but not in the sunshine. The sunshine will cook it. It'll get too hot and steamy. So this is going to stay here at the library. So come and see it whenever it is we open sometime in the distant future. Thank you. Have fun with your plants.